Top 20 Cryptids and Creatures. Cryptozoology, or the study of cryptids, is considered a pseudoscience that assumes or presumes the existence of animals and plants that have been derived from anecdotal or other sources not from mainstream science. Biologists regularly identify new species, while cryptozoologists focus on entities that are mentioned in folklore and mythology. Number 20, cannibals. Cannibals are humans that practice eating the flesh or internal organs of other human beings. A person who practices cannibalism is called a cannibal. The history of cannibalism is a long one. Ancient legends speak of cannibalism as a common practice that was replaced after agricultural cults were introduced. During the times of war or extreme circumstances, cannibalism is practiced and is sometimes practiced as a punishment to the enemy or as a ritual to absorb the energy of the enemy, such as was done to Captain Cook. Cannibalism is still practiced in New Guinea and parts of the Solomon Islands. Cannibalism has also been recently practiced as a last resort by people suffering from famine. Famous examples include the ill-fated westward expedition of the Donner Party in 1846 through 1847, and the more recently crash of Air Force Flight 571 in 1972. Mentally ill people also obsess about eating other people, such as Jeffrey Dahmer or Albert Fish. That is considered a mental disorder. Number 19, the Kraken. The Kraken is a legendary sea monster of giant size that is said to dwell off the coast of Norway and Greenland. Authors over the year have theorized that the legend originated from the sightings of giant squids that may grow up to 40 to 50 feet in length. It was first described by the Dane Erik Pontoppidan in 1752. Number 18, the New Jersey Devil. In New Jersey folklore, the Jersey Devil is a legendary creature said to inhabit the pine barrens of southern New Jersey in America. The creature is often described as a flying biped with hooves, but there are many variations. The most common is that of a kangaroo-like creature with the head of a goat, leathery bat-like wings and horns, small arms with clawed hands, cloven hooves, and a forked tail. According to popular folklore, the Jersey Devil originated with a Pine Barrens resident known as Mother Leeds. The legend states that Mother Leeds had 12 children, and after finding she was pregnant with the 13th one, she cursed the child in frustration, crying that the child would be the devil. During 1735, Mother Leeds was in labor on a stormy night while her friends gathered around her. Born as a normal child, the 13th child changed to a creature with hooves, a goat's head, bat wings, and a forked tail. Growling and screaming, it killed the midwife before flying up the chimney and heading into the pines. In some versions of the tale, Mother Leeds was allegedly a witch, and the child's father was the devil himself. Number 17, the Goat Man. The Goat Man is a half-human creature that has the head and hindquarters of a goat and the body of a human. According to urban legend, the Goat Man is an axe-wielding half-human, half-man creature that was once a scientist who worked in the Beltsville Agricultural Research Center. The tale holds that he was experimenting on goats until one experiment backfired and he was mutated, becoming a goat like himself. He then began attacking cars with an axe, roaming the back roads of Beltsville, Maryland. A variation of the legend tells of the Goat Man as an old hermit who lives in the woods, seen walking alone at night along Fletcherton Road. Another variation states that the Goat Man was the result of a DNA experiment conducted by a scientist named Stephen Fletcher. Number 16, man-eating trees. Man-eating trees can refer to any of the various legendary carnivorous plants large enough to kill and consume a person or other large animals similar to the Venus flytrap plant. Number 15, dragons. The dragon is a legendary creature typically scaled or fire-spewing and with serpentine, reptilian, or avian traits that feature in the myths of many cultures around the world. The best known cultural traditions of dragons come from Europe and China. Number 14, lizard man or reptoids. Reptilians are allegedly reptilian humanoids that play a prominent role in fantasy, science fiction, UFOlogy, and conspiracy theories. The idea of reptilians was popularized by David Icke, a conspiracy theorist who claimed shape-shifting reptilian aliens control Earth by taking on human form and gaining political power to manipulate human societies. Icke has claimed on multiple occasions that many of the world leaders are possessed by so-called reptilians. Interestingly enough, a newspaper article has cited that the South Carolina Emergency Management Division is warning citizens in several of its counties to be vigilant of paranormal activity associated with the upcoming total solar eclipse. Considering that the eclipse is a space event, you may think the warning is simply an amusing alert to keep an eye out for UFOs, but that's not the case. It is not an April's Fool joke and a legitimate warning. Number 13, the puka. The puka is Irish for spirit or ghost, and it is primarily a creature of Celtic folklore. Considered to be bringers both of good and bad fortune, they could either help or hurt rural and marine communities. The puka can have dark or staunch white fur or hair. The creatures were said to be shape-shifters, which could take the appearance of horses, goats, cats, dogs, and hares. They may also take human form, which includes various animal features, such as ears or a tail. In the 1950 film Harvey with Jimmy Stewart, Stewart's character has a 6-foot, 3.5-inch tall rabbit as a companion named Harvey, whom he refers to as Puka. Number 12, the Thunderbird. The Thunderbird is a legendary creature in certain North American cultures. It is considered a supernatural being of power and strength. It is especially important in Pacific Northwest cultures, but also found among the American Southwest cultures. In 1977 in Lawndale, Illinois, an alleged Thunderbird attacked a 10-year-old boy trying to fly off with him. Actually, two giant birds attacked, but only one tried to carry the child away. The mother witnessed the attack and chased after the bird, yelling until the bird released the boy, and the two birds flew away. Number 11, the vampire. A vampire is a being from folklore that exists by feeding on the life force or blood of the living. In European folklores, vampires were undead beings that often visited loved ones and caused mischief or deaths in the neighborhoods they inhabited when they were alive. They wore shrouds and were often described as bloated and of ruddy or dark countenance. Vampiric entities have been recorded in most cultures. In modern times, the vampire is generally held to be fictitious. The medical condition known as porphyria was also linked with legends of vampirism in 1985 and received much media exposure, but has since been largely discredited. The charismatic version of the vampire was introduced in 1819 by John Polidori. Bram Stoker's 1897 novel Dracula is remembered as the top vampire novel and provided the basis for the modern vampire legend. Number 10, mermaids. A mermaid is a legendary aquatic creature with the head and upper body of a female human and the tail of a fish. Mermaids appear in folklore in many cultures worldwide, including the Near East, Europe, Africa, and Asia. The first stories of mermaids appeared in ancient Assyria, in which the goddess Atargatis transformed herself into a mermaid out of shame for accidentally killing her human lover. The male equivalent of the mermaid is the merman, also a familiar figure in folklore. Number 9, giant snakes. The largest living snakes in the world, measured either by length or by weight, are various members of the Boidae and Pythonidae families. They include anacondas, pythons, and boa constrictors. The longest venomous snake, with a length of up to 18.5 to 18.8 feet, is the king cobra. There are 10 living snakes that have a maximum mass that may reach or exceed 50 pounds. Number 8, skinwalkers. In Navajo culture, a skinwalker is a type of harmful witch who has the ability to turn into, possess, or disguise themselves as an animal, usually for the purpose of harming people. Most skinwalker magic is done with the intent to commit murder. The legend of the skinwalkers is not well understood outside of Navajo culture due to the reluctance to discuss the subject with outsiders. Thus, people are led to draw their own conclusions from the stories they hear. Navajo witches, including skinwalkers, represent the opposite of Navajo cultural values. They are evil reflections of goodly medicine men and women, performing twisted ceremonies and manipulating magic in a perversion of the good works that medicine people traditionally perform. Number 7, the rake. The rake is a creature believed to be a humanoid in appearance, with several references in folklore and horrific urban legend, originally appearing on the internet on creepypasta. The creature reportedly attacks humans due to unknown reasons and often causes its victims great psychological trauma. Number 6, Mothman. The Mothman is a legendary creature reportedly seen in the Point Pleasant, West Virginia area from November 12, 1966 to December 15, 1967. The first newspaper report was published in the Point Pleasant Register, dated November 16, 1966, titled "Couple See Man-Sized Bird Creature Something." The national press soon picked up on the reports and helped spread the story across the country. The Mothman was introduced to a wider audience by Gray Barker in 1970 and later popularized by John Keel in his 1975 book, The Mothman Prophecies, claiming that there were supernatural events related to the sightings and a connection to the collapse of the Silver Bridge. Number 5, Chupacabra. Chupacabra is a legendary creature in the folklore parts of the Americas, and its first sightings were reported in Puerto Rico. The name comes from the animal's reported habit of attacking and drinking the blood of livestock, especially goats. Physical descriptions of the creature vary. It is purportedly a creature the size of a small bear, with a row of spines reaching from the neck to the base of the tail. Eyewitnesses have claimed as early as 1995 in Puerto Rico, and have since been reported as far north as Maine and as far south as Chile, and even being spotted outside of the Americas in countries like Russia and the Philippines. Interestingly, one thing to note is that the ancient Egyptian Set creature looks very similar to a chupacabra. Number 4, Ogopogo. Ogopogo is the equivalent of the Loch Ness Monster that is said to have been seen in Canada. In Canadian folklore, Ogopogo is a lake monster reported to live in Okanagan Lake in British Columbia, Canada. Ogopogo has been allegedly seen by First Nations people since the 19th century. Ogopogo is said to be 40 to 50 feet long and resembles the extinct Basilosaurus. Number 3. Loch Ness Monster. The Loch Ness Monster, or Nessie, is an aquatic being said to live in the Loch Ness in the Scottish Highlands. It is similar to a lake monster or sea serpent, and an alleged photograph was made in 1934 of Nessie. It is known as the surgeon's photograph since it was taken by Robert Kenneth Wilson, a London gynecologist, and it was published in the Daily Mail on April 21st, 1934. Number 2, Dogman or werewolf. The Dogman is a canine hominid first reported in America in 1887 in Wexford County, Michigan, although stories of dogmen or werewolves go way back. They are described as very tall and strong. The latest sightings have occurred in Michigan, and a title of the Michigan Dogman has been launched. The Beast of Bray Road was another name given to a dogman in 1936, after the sightings of a dogman occurred on a rural road outside of Elkhorn, Wisconsin. Number 1. Bigfoot. This creature is described as a hairy giant hominid with intelligence that lives and hides in the woods, going by the name of Almas in Asia, Sasquatch or wild men in North America, and Yeti in the Himalayas. Mention of a hairy man known as Enkidu was also made in the ancient Sumerian mythology. Sasquatch researchers have pointed out the long history of oral tradition among Native Americans regarding Sasquatch. Several non-definitive videos have surfaced on the internet alleging the capture of an image of Bigfoot. The most famous is the Patterson-Gimlin film taken in 1967. Some researchers believe that these beings are benevolent, while others believe they are not. In 1847, Paul Kane reported stories by the native people about Skookums, a race of cannibalistic wild men living on the peak of Mount St. Helens in what is now southern Washington state. Most interestingly, the fossil remains of a giant hominid have been found in Asia. The teeth that were found has been dubbed as belonging to an extinct giant hominid named Gigantopithecus, which was said to have grown to be over 1,000 pounds and over 9 feet tall. Thank you.